that first sales hire has to be glued at the hip with the founder. And it's a matter of joining every call with the founder. It's a matter of the founder sitting down at a whiteboard and whiteboarding the vision and telling the story, because your first sales hire has to be able to speak as if they were a founder of the company. That is typically the most successful model. When you get that first person in the door and they're now basically in the seat where they sound like a co-founder and they can speak to the why and the vision with enthusiasm and passion, that's how you get success. And the best way to do it is just to model it. Let them hear what it sounds like to tell the story. And I think the mistake people make, especially when they think about the playbook and I've hired this salesperson, is they try to write it out in a document and then like, here's how you do it, go do it. And the salesperson just cannot, no human being can recreate that storytelling and the passion of a founder if they just read it in a document. They've got to be there. So default to including that salesperson in every conversation, and not just sales conversations. Let them listen to when you talk to investors, when you talk to partners, when you're talking broadly about your company and why you built what you built. They need that whole story so they can be fully audible ready and they can sound like a co-founder of the company.
If you were to choose between someone who's got domain expertise in your domain that you're selling into, so previous history with it, selling to that customer base, or history selling that ACV size, that contract size, which is more important?
Neither.
I wasn't expecting that at all.
Of those two, I'd go ACV. I think that it's actually much more important that somebody understand the profile and they understand the mechanics of doing a deal of that size with that profile. They can learn the subject matter expertise in many cases. I actually think the most important thing in early hires is that person a hunter or are they used to taking orders? And that grit that it takes to be somebody who can open doors and hunt, that person will succeed over others in every possible scenario. So you got to look for somebody who is comfortable with that and does not expect business to come to them.
Do we ever want someone to take orders? Like, if we think about those two motions, the enterprise versus the higher velocity, is the hunter one and the take orders the other? Do we ever want someone who takes orders? How should we think about that?
Yeah, I think there's a place for people who take orders. And I think particularly early career, when you've got a velocity business and you've got a playbook and it's very clean and you know exactly how the math works, there's a lot of value in somebody who can just very efficiently take those orders. I don't think that's the world we live in anymore. I think with the shifts we've seen in the macroeconomic environment, we are no longer in a growth at all costs world. We are no longer in a world where business is just going to come to anyone, except maybe those lucky few out there. I don't know who they are, but I think that we're in a world where everyone now has to be a hunter. And every member of your team has to be accountable for cracking doors and breaking down barriers. And grit is going to become infinitely more important over the next 18 months.
We won't talk about Gen Z entitlement because I might just get on a high horse, so we'll just move on from that. You mentioned grit there being a characteristic. We're going to build the team together now. Very exciting. What non-obvious characteristics and attitudes make incredible 10x sales hires from your experience?
For me, it's about a couple of things. It is about grit, number one. And grit is not necessarily just being a hustler or somebody who pushes really hard. Grit is about hanging with something hard over a longer term and actually making it happen. So when I look for grit, I'm looking for somebody that has picked something hard to accomplish and stuck with it through adversity to make it happen. So that's one. And the second is curiosity.
Let's bring that. How do you test for grit? I'm a candidate. I want a job with you at Vanta. How do you test if I have grit?
I think that you've got to get to the heart of what are some of those accomplishments that person is very proud of. And they don't have to be at work. I think there are people who are very early career who have tremendous stories of grit, whether it's something they accomplished in their pursuit of a great education or something they accomplished on a human level that was really, really hard. It could be a hobby. I think asking about those things, you want to see passion. You want to hear stories of overcoming. And if you can get those stories out of someone, those are the kind of people that will be resilient in a really dynamic workplace, and they will figure out how to win even as things change.
I always want to see discipline that means sacrifice. And it could be like incredibly grueling exams, which mean you have to study so hard and you lose a load of social. It could be doing ultra marathons and meaning you miss birthday parties and great food, but like pain as a result of discipline, which
Yes.
sounds very horrible of me.
I
But
think
it,
that's real though. I think that is real. And when I think about why I have been successful, some of those things are really at the heart of my story. I actually dropped out of university all those years ago, 25 plus years ago, to go be a pro gamer. And so as I made my way into tech, into sales in my early career, there were lots of places I could not even get to an interview because I didn't have a degree. And, I couldn't even get in the door at like a Google or a Meta or these places that were so aspirational. They wouldn't even speak to me because I did not have the pedigree. And I decided over time that it was really important to me to complete the degree. And so over the course of 25 years, I basically did a class at a time, and I take breaks and then I come back to it. And even as I was a single mom, I was doing a class at a time in my free time at night. And I actually graduated and got my undergrad degree during the pandemic. So it's like that is the kind of stuff I'm looking for in people I hire, is just the determination.